worship at the Baptist Church. Here's the story.
This Sunday morning at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota was not like any other. During worship, a group of protesters stormed the Baptist Church chanting "Justice for Renee Good" in reference to the woman fatally shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis after she drove her car into him. In a video circulating online, the protesters said they targeted the church because of allegations one of its pastors was connected to ICE. The pastor in question is David Easterwood, which is the same name listed as acting director of the ICE field office in St. Paul. NTD reached out to ICE to verify whether these are the same individual. ICE shared a video of the protest from the Center for Baptist Leadership saying, "Agitators aren't just targeting our officers, now they're targeting churches too." In a post on X, Attorney General Pam Bondi said yesterday the Department of Justice is investigating the incident. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, who leads the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, said her department is looking at potential violations. She said the protesters were desecrating a house of worship and interfering with Christian worshipers. The incident comes as tensions over immigration enforcement in Minnesota rise. Speaking to Fox News Sunday, Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons once again warned elected officials not to spread rhetoric that could put agents in danger.
So we started seeing this back in April, and I sent up the flare and started asking, elected officials not to stoke such dangerous rhetoric about ICE. And now exactly, you are seeing exactly what you just said. You've seen attacks on ICE officers and our other federal partners for only going out there and doing their law enforcement mission.
As protests, sometimes violent, grow, Reuters reported yesterday the Pentagon has ordered 1,500 active-duty soldiers to prepare for a possible deployment to Minnesota. The outlet cited two officials, though the Pentagon hasn't made any statements itself. President Trump has previously said he could invoke the Insurrection Act to quell unrest, enabling the federal government to send in the U.S. military. The mayor of Minneapolis called the idea of sending in soldiers a, quote, ridiculous and unconstitutional idea. Mayor Jacob Fry said the city will not be intimidated.
This act was clearly designed to intimidate the people of Minneapolis, and here's the thing. We're not going to be intimidated. If the goal here is safety, we've got many mechanisms to achieve safety. And the best way to get safety is not to have an influx of even more agents, and in this case, military, in Minneapolis.
Meanwhile, Governor Tim Walz has mobilized the Minnesota National Guard. In a post on X Saturday, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety wrote, "The Guard troops are ready to help support public safety and the rights of all who assemble peacefully." The troops aren't deployed yet, but the state says they will wear bright yellow reflective vests to distinguish them from other agencies like ICE. The federal government continues to defend its immigration enforcement operations. In an interview with CBS Sunday, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said the vast majority of those arrested by ICE are convicted criminals or have criminal charges.
Every single individual has committed a crime, but 70% of them have committed or have charges against them on violent crimes.
In a video posted by ICE, an agent confronted by protesters in Minnesota says he and other agents are there to arrest a child sex offender.
We're here to arrest a child sex offender. And you guys are out here honking.
Oh, we're not. No, we're press. We're not.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting.
Noem said the Trump administration is committed to arresting and deporting the worst of the worst from America's communities. In a post on X, Immigration and Customs Enforcement wrote, "We won't be deterred. ICE isn't going anywhere."
Joining us to discuss is Jonathan Houlihan, President and General Counsel of Remington Law. So, Jonathan, good afternoon. The church's pastor said protesters refused to leave when asked. Was it within the demonstrators' free speech rights to protest inside the church and interrupt Sunday service?
Absolutely not. This is far outside First Amendment protected speech. This shocks the conscience, frankly. I mean, they're trespassers. They go in, they intentionally use force to force themselves through the church. They intimidate the pastor. This is not protected speech under any form or fashion. And I think the DOJ is well within its rights and should be investigating this. Not only those that went inside the church and intimidated the congregation and the pastor, but also the network. I mean, clearly this is a network, a conspiracy where these are organized. You've seen all these tactics across Minnesota and frankly across the United States, where these aggressive tactics to quell other opinions, to stop and intimidate and coerce is nationwide. So this is they have to stop this kind of bad behavior right now before it gets out of hand and spreads to other churches.
Okay, Jonathan, can you explain for us clearly what does the Constitution exactly protect when it comes to demonstrating, and what does it not protect in this context where places of worship are involved?
Well, I mean, typically a traditional public forum, a sidewalk, another place where you could protest. It's not private property. Although a church opens its doors to everyone, it's not a place to protest against the pastor and disrupt services. So it's not that protected forum that you'd see, even a limited traditional forum like in a school board meeting or whatnot, where folks are invited in to speak. This is beyond the bounds of protected speech, especially attempting to incite violence, to really disrupt the church services. It's far beyond the pale, and that's why those statutes exist. I mean, Congress passed the FACE Act, other statutes, conspiracy against rights, that recognizes that kind of behavior to intimidate, coerce, or use force is not protected speech under the First Amendment.
Okay, so you mentioned the FACE Act. Could you help us understand that? Because the DOJ's Civil Rights Division said it's investigating this or potential violations of the FACE Act. What is it exactly, and what does it mean for them?
So the FACE Act was originally a statute passed by Congress in 1994 that was meant for, as they call it, reproductive clinics, abortion clinics, to stop protesters from using force to intimidate those seeking to receive an abortion. It has been extended to religious places of worship. So under that same kind of foundation, the same framework, the DOJ is investigating this activity, going into a religious service and disrupting it. You know, the irony here is the last administration really aggressively pursued FACE Act criminal charges against those that were protesting. Many of those were on traditional public forums, as we discussed, sidewalks. They were on the private property. They weren't on the private property, but on the sidewalks. They were away from the doors, and they still got prosecuted. These individuals went inside the church, into the sermon, and disrupted the pastor, really caused an intimidation across the board. I mean, that's their goal. I think in a lot of these is to intimidate free speech, intimidate those that would stand for the rule of law. It's beyond the pale in this country that these individuals would go into church services and stop church services because in their mind, your opinion doesn't matter. The church service doesn't matter. It's only what they think that matters. And that's not what the First Amendment is about. It's supposed to have protections in place for everybody to foster their own ideas, their own religious services, the free exercise of religion, and to disrupt that is not protected speech. So that's what the FACE Act aims to stop from disruptions like this in the religious services, the free exercise thereof.
Okay, final thing. What do you think, what could the charges be here potentially?
Well, I think they would, just from watching the videos and what I've seen on open source, I think you've got FACE Act violations. So they clearly disrupted. They used force. They intimidated the church services during the religious service. So at a minimum, they could face a year for each FACE Act violation. But I really think, to get to the heart of this, I think the investigation should expand the scope. And I touched on this a while ago, but really a conspiracy against rights. So who is funding this activity? Who is organizing? Who is the C2, the command and control, the money behind all this that are getting these folks to go into religious services? I've got clients around the country that have attended conducting journalistic activities, and they're getting whistles blown in their ear, really beyond what free speech allows. It's inciting violence. They're trying to run them off any kind of counter protest or free speech in traditional public forums. So I think at the end of the day, the heart of this, it needs to get to who is organizing this, follow the money, find out who is behind this, and go after the C2, the command and control element that is really organizing these protests in religious services, and also going after ICE officers at their homes. All of these things are not protected speech when they're blowing amplifiers and music past municipal ordinance the codes that restrict that activity, which is perfectly lawful to restrict some of that loud noise late at night. All of those things are not protected speech. So they really need to go after the command and control networks to get to the heart of this and stop it.
Yeah, I think FBI investigator or FBI Director Kash Patel said recently that they're investigating these protests in Minnesota. Perhaps this one specifically falls within that scope as well. Well, all right, Jonathan, thank you for your analysis today.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent calls Greenland essential to U.S. security as President